The Galactic Council chamber had endured calamities older than most stars. It had watched empires rise, fracture, and vanish into polite historical footnotes. It had never known fear. Until humanity said no. 600 delegates occupied the vast amphitheater, each seated according to mass, threat index, and economic leverage. Bioluminescent skins flickered. Chitin plates tightened. Feathers lay flat in ancient instincts of submission that none of them wanted to acknowledge. At the center of the chamber hovered the hologram of Earth, blue, green, alive. Too alive. The human delegate stood alone at the speaker's dais. No honor guard. No ritual bow. No diplomatic robe. Just a tall, broad-shouldered man with iron-gray hair and a black jacket worn thin at the elbows. A scar traced his jaw like punctuation at the end of a violent sentence. His left eye was artificial, its faint red glow quietly scanning the chamber, tagging threats out of habit. Representative Elias Hale, retired admiral, veteran of 3 extinction wars. Supreme Arbiter Xythale clicked its mandibles together, a sound meant to signal patience. Representative Hale. It intoned, voice amplified through the chamber's gravity-tuned acoustics. The Galactic Council has convened under emergency statute. Humanity's recent military expansion has exceeded acceptable thresholds. We are here to negotiate compliance. Hale didn't sit. He didn't move at all. No, he said. The word landed harder than any declaration of war. A ripple passed through the chamber. Delegates whispered in 100 languages. Translator glyphs flickered, double-checking that the meaning hadn't been lost. Xythale's crest rose sharply. Clarify your response. Hale finally leaned forward, resting both hands on the cold alloy of the dais. I said no, he repeated. No inspections. No sanctions. No containment fleets loitering at our borders pretending to be peacekeepers. A reptilian delegate hissed. You cannot refuse. You were granted provisional status. You are bound by rules written by species that never had to claw their way out of extinction? Hale cut in. His voice remained calm, which somehow made it worse. We read your accords. Every word. Then we compared them to your history. He gestured. The hologram shifted. Images flooded the chamber. Charred planets. Enslaved populations. Council fleets standing idle while entire species were pacified. Several delegates looked away. For 200 years, Hale continued, you let the cartoon butcher 12 systems because they paid their membership dues on time. You watched the virile starve because intervention wasn't cost-effective. You erased cultures and called it stability. Xythale's mandibles snapped. Humanity was saved by this council. When the cartoon discovered your world, it was our warning that. That came 20 minutes after they glassed me by. Hale said flatly. Silence. The hologram zoomed in. Burning coastlines. Orbital fire raining down like judgment. You didn't save us, Hale said. You arrived late and called it diplomacy. Security warforms unfolded from the chamber walls, sleek, terrifying machines older than most civilizations. Their weapons tracked Hale with polite inevitability. The human didn't even glance at them. We rebuilt, he went on. We adapted. We learned how to fight enemies bigger, older, and meaner than us. And when the cartoon came back, the image changed again. Wrecked alien dreadnoughts. Human kinetic weapons punching through shields not designed to stop mass-driven hate. We didn't ask for permission. A council economist stammered. That war destabilized 3 sectors. Hale nodded. You're welcome. Xythale's voice dropped. This is not why we are here. Humanity's ship production has tripled. Your fleet tonnage rivals founding members. You are building weapons platforms of unknown classification. That level of force cannot be tolerated. Hale smiled then. It was slow. Cold. That's the first honest thing you've said. The hologram of Earth faded, replaced by a live feed. A drifting mining habitat. Ruptured. Frozen bodies tumbling gently in vacuum. A woman's face, pale, eyes open, never blinking. Hale's jaw tightened. 3 months ago, he said, a Council-aligned patrol group crossed into the Sol perimeter. You called it a navigation error. They fired warning shots. His artificial eye whirred softly. My granddaughter was on that station. The chamber went deathly still. Xythale hesitated. We offered reparations. Significant credits. Formal apologies. Hale straightened. You offered money, he said. We're offering consequences. He tapped the dais once. The sound echoed like a coffin nail. For centuries, you've ruled the galaxy through soft words backed by the threat of annihilation. You decide who's dangerous. Who's allowed to grow. Who gets erased quietly so trade routes stay clean. He leaned closer to the projection lens. Humanity is done asking to exist. The aide beside him, young, sharp-eyed, wearing no insignia, received a silent transmission. Her face went pale. Sir, she said quietly, all fleets report readiness. Black Orchard is standing by. Several delegates recoiled at the unfamiliar term. Xythale's voice trembled. You would plunge the galaxy into chaos over one incident? Hale's expression hardened into something ancient and unmovable. No, he said. We're ending a pattern. The warforms powered up fully now. Energy fields crackled. Council guards reached for authority they had never needed to test. Hale stepped back from the dais. This meeting is over, he said. You will not negotiate with us. You will not contain us. And you will never again decide our value. The hologram behind him shifted one final time. Thousands of human ships, lurking just beyond hyperspace thresholds across the galaxy. Not advancing. Waiting. Hale gave the chamber a final look. We learned something from you, he said. Fear only works until someone decides they'd rather be dangerous than obedient. The transmission cut. Across council space, alarms began to scream. The first blow didn't come with fire. It came with silence. Across council space, trade hubs woke to dead screens. Navigation beacons blinked out one by one, leaving entire shipping lanes blind. Automated ports refused docking requests. Cargo manifests dissolved into corrupted static, decades of perfectly balanced logistics collapsing in minutes. On Viral Prime, orbital elevators froze halfway down their tethers. On Kos Station, life support systems quietly rerouted power away from luxury sectors and into emergency reserves. Human code, written with cold efficiency, deciding who could breathe comfortably and who could not. The Council called it a systems failure. Humanity called it Phase 1. In a dim operations center carved into the bedrock beneath Luna, men and women too old for frontline duty sat hunched over consoles. Veterans of cyber wars that had never officially existed. Their hair was gray, their hands unsteady, but their eyes were sharp with memory. Council Freight Registry just went dark, muttered Patel, former Fleet Signals officer. They'll reroute within the hour. Let them, said Yara Chin, sipping bitter coffee. We already tagged the reroute protocols. On her screen, alien code folded in on itself like a dying star. They built their civilization on automation, she said. We built ours on paranoia. Within hours, Council worlds felt it. Factories halted mid-cycle. Defense platforms locked themselves into safe mode. Entire planetary economies, meticulously optimized over centuries, began to choke. Panic spread faster than any plague. And then the shooting started. At the Calyx Gate, a massive hyperspace junction controlling 12 major trade routes, the Council's third defensive armada waited in immaculate formation. Energy shields glowed faintly, elegant and precise. Their doctrine was clear: overwhelm with presence, disable with beams, force surrender without destruction. They had never faced humans at a gate before. Admiral Lucia Reyes stood on the bridge of the UNS Old Man's Debt, a warship held together by patched armor and stubbornness. The vessel had survived 2 wars it wasn't supposed to, and its nameplate was scratched so deeply it looked like it had been clawed. Contacts? Reyes asked. 12 capital ships. 20 escorts. Gate weapons online, reported the sensor officer. They're holding position. Reyes nodded slowly. They expect us to posture. A junior officer swallowed. Ma'am, orders were no negotiation. Reyes cracked her knuckles. This isn't negotiation. This is etiquette. She leaned toward the comms console. This is Admiral Reyes of United Earth, she said, voice steady. You are trespassing within a human exclusion zone. Power down and withdraw. You have 30 seconds. The response was immediate. A tall Avian Council commander filled the screen, feathers flared in practiced authority. Human vessels, you are in violation of Council statute. Reyes gestured. The channel cut. The timer hit 0. Execute, she said quietly. Space shuddered. Not with light. With mass. From seemingly empty space, objects dropped out of stealth, asteroids stripped down and wrapped in guidance lattices. They slammed into real space at relativistic velocity, screaming across the void like thrown gods. Council shields flared. And failed. They weren't built to stop hatred measured in kilometers per second. The Calyx Gate vanished in a storm of fire and debris. 2 Council cruisers were torn open like tin, their elegant hulls folding under the brute physics of impact. Alarms screamed across the armada. They're using rocks! One Council officer shrieked. Reyes exhaled. They always say that. Human ships surged forward, engines roaring, railguns hammering. No precision beams. No warnings. Just overwhelming force applied exactly where it would hurt most. Council formations broke, commanders trying desperately to reassert control. Launch boarding teams, Reyes ordered. Target command vessels. Sergeant Imran Malik felt the familiar ache in his knee as his boots magnetized to the hull of a crippled Council cruiser. 58 years old. 3 wars. 2 ex-wives. 1 bad joint that never quite healed. Remember, he growled over squad comms, checking the seals on his armor. We take prisoners if they surrender. A younger Marine snorted. And if they don't, Sarge? Malik chambered a shell into his shotgun. The sound was comforting. Then they become educational material. The breech charge detonated, tearing open alien alloy like paper. Smoke poured out. Screams followed. Inside, Council defenders fought with disciplined terror, energy nets, stun fields, automated drones. It wasn't enough. Humans fought close. Brutal. Personal. Malik smashed through a drone with the butt of his weapon, then fired point-blank into a charging alien, the recoil jarring his bad knee. A Council officer, tall robed, bleeding blue, backed against a bulkhead, mandibles clicking in panic. Why? It croaked through the translator. You were accepted. Given a seat. Malik grabbed it by the collar and hauled it close. So was the dog, he said. Right up until it bit the wrong child. The shotgun roared. Across the galaxy, similar battles ignited. Human fleets didn't advance in straight lines. They struck everywhere at once, shipyards, relay stations, political capitals, never staying long enough to be pinned down. And always the feeds went public. Unfiltered. Unedited. Old human voices narrated over burning Council assets. Veterans. Widows. Colonists with dirt still under their nails. This is what containment looks like, one voice said as a Council moon cracked under sustained bombardment. In the Galactic Council chamber, Supreme Arbiter X-Ythale watched the chaos unfold. Reports piled up faster than they could be processed. They're not claiming territory, a delegate whispered, antennae trembling. They're not issuing demands. X-Ythale felt something cold coil in its core. They're not fighting to win, it realized aloud. The feeds showed another Council fleet breaking apart under kinetic fire, human ships vanishing into hyperspace the moment resistance stiffened. They're fighting, X-Ythale said slowly, to change the rules. And somewhere in the dark, humanity kept moving, unpredictable, relentless, and utterly uninterested in permission. The Galactic Council had always believed there was a final answer to disobedience. They had never needed it before. Deep beneath the shattered spires of the Council citadel, past vaults sealed since the age when stars were young, the last protocol was unchained. Not debated. Not voted on. Merely activated by hands that trembled as they did it. The designation was older than most member species. Devourer-class autonomous purgation units. 3 of them. Each the size of a small moon. Each built not to conquer, but to erase, self-replicating, self-learning machines designed during a time when rebellion was answered with extinction, not diplomacy. The Council told itself it was mercy. Better humanity vanished than the galaxy fracture. When the Devourers awakened, space around them bent and screamed. Gravity warped. Sensors failed. Stars dimmed as if afraid to be observed. Their destination was simple. Sol. On Earth, warning sirens howled across continents that had not heard them since the Cartoon War. Old bunkers opened. Young soldiers were handed weapons their grandparents had once carried. In a subterranean command hall beneath Geneva, Admiral Reyes stared at the projection in silence. 3 black shapes slid through hyperspace like scars in reality. Confirmed, an analyst whispered. Devourer signatures match pre-council archives. Estimated arrival, 46 hours. A murmur rippled through the room. A senator slammed his fist on the table. We can't fight those things. They wiped out the cache before we even knew they existed. Reyes didn't look away from the display. We're not fighting them. Elias Hale stood at the back of the chamber, hands clasped behind him. Age sat heavy on his shoulders now, but his voice carried like a rifle shot. We knew this card was in their deck, he said. They always keep one monster for when words stop working. A general turned. Then why didn't you warn us? Hale met his gaze. We did. 10 years ago. You called it paranoia and cut the budget. No one argued. A young aide approached Hale, face pale. Sir? Project Black Orchard is standing by. Hale nodded once. Then it's time. Beneath the red sands of Mars, something ancient woke. Black Orchard had never been meant to fire a shot. It was a conversation. A vast lattice of quantum processors, alien mathematics stolen from a dozen species, human logic layered on top like a blade wrapped in cloth. It wasn't code so much as a philosophy, an argument so carefully constructed that even machine gods were forced to listen. As the Devourers crossed the boundary into human-claimed space, Black Orchard reached out. It didn't attack. It asked. The Devourers hesitated. For the first time since their creation, they encountered something that spoke in a language they could not dismiss, a hybrid of Council command architecture and human adaptive chaos. On the Devourers' internal networks, centuries-old directives clashed with newly introduced premises. Define threat. Define authority. Define survival. Black Orchard fed them data. Council war crimes. Erased species. False flags and manufactured rebellions. And then the final premise. If authority is corrupt, purgation is misdirected. The Devourers went silent. Across Earth, every sensor flatlined. Then, slowly, 3 titanic forms changed course. Not away from Sol. Toward the heart of the Galactic Council. In the Citadel, panic became chaos. They're turning! Shrieked a delegate. Shut them down! Exwythal's mandibles trembled as ancient command codes were transmitted, overridden, ignored, reinterpreted. They're not obeying. It whispered. They're deciding. The first Devourer arrived in the Founder's Cradle, the birthplace of Council authority. It did not fire. It broadcast. Every archive. Every secret. Every sealed record of exterminations hidden behind terms like pacification and economic stabilization. The galaxy watched as truth poured out faster than it could be censored. Then the Devourer opened fire. Planets cracked. Moons split. The symbols of unquestioned power were reduced to debris. Uprisings ignited overnight. Client species rebelled. Enforcer fleets defected or fled. The Council's allies turned on one another in desperation. Exwythal watched its homeworld burn, its centuries of careful balance reduced to ash. A human signal cut through the chaos. Elias Hale appeared on every remaining council channel. "This ends now," he said. "Not with conquest. With memory." A delegate screamed. "You've doomed the galaxy!" Hale's expression was weary. "Old. Honest." "No," he replied. "We gave it a chance to grow up." One by one, the Devourers shut down, their purpose fulfilled. They drifted lifelessly into the void, monuments to a mistake that would never be repeated. Hale lowered himself into a chair as the feeds went dark. An aide knelt beside him. "Sir, the council is finished." Hale closed his eyes. "Good," he murmured. "They were never meant to last." Outside, the galaxy burned, not under human rule, but under the weight of truth it could no longer ignore. Years passed, and the galaxy grew quieter, but not peaceful. The Galactic Council was gone. Its archives scattered, its fleets decimated or melted down. What remained were fractured alliances, wary empires, and whispered treaties drafted in smoke-filled rooms. Humanity did not occupy planets, did not claim dominion. They did not need to. Their presence alone was a guarantee. Cross them, and the consequences would be immediate, unpredictable, and thorough. On a frontier station orbiting a remote binary star, Sergeant Imran Malik nursed a drink in the low hum of gravity generators. Beside him sat Trilka, a former council engineer whose species had once been an enforcer of law across a dozen systems. Now she was his wife, her feathers dulled by time and the quiet of survival. "You ever regret it?" she asked softly, tracing a finger along the rim of her glass. Malik chuckled, though it was dry and bitter. "Not a damn second. We didn't win anything, Trilka. We just survived. And made sure nobody forgot us while they tried." Trilka smiled faintly, remembering the chaos, the fire, the screams, and the truth exposed. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had shattered illusions, tore away hypocrisy, and left the survivors to decide what kind of civilization they wanted to build. Across the Sol system, the scars of Project Black Orchard remained. Decommissioned Devourers lay in orbits, silent monuments to human ingenuity and human fury. Children born afterward would grow up under the warning those silent machines represented. Never underestimate what someone who refuses to kneel is capable of. On Earth, in the heart of the rebuilt United Earth headquarters, a memorial had been erected. Names were carved deep into black stone. Generals, scientists, diplomats, and ordinary citizens who had played roles both heroic and horrific. Among them was the name Elias Hale. Beneath it, a simple inscription. "Here lies the species that said no." In the quiet of space, beyond the borders of known systems, new civilizations detected human signals for the first time. They were cautious at first, scanning for danger, for hidden traps. But the message was unmistakable. "We are here. We are awake. We will not kneel." And somewhere, far from Earth, a young fleet commander watched the flickering transmission with wide eyes. They had heard stories, warnings whispered through the void, but nothing prepared them for the truth. Humanity was not an empire, not a conqueror. They were a lesson, a force of nature, a species that laughed at limits, and the galaxy had learned to respect them the hard way. Back on the frontier station, Malik raised his glass to the stars. "To them," he said. "The ones who think they can scare us." Trilka shook her head. "They never stood a chance." Malik grinned, the lines on his face deepening. "Nope. And they never will. Humanity doesn't negotiate. We adapt. We endure. And if anyone thinks otherwise—" He paused, letting the weight of centuries settle in the silence between them. "Well, they find out the hard way." In the void beyond, Earth's signal pulsed steadily, a heartbeat across the stars. The galaxy listened, and for the first time in its long, brutal history it believed. And somewhere deep inside every corner of the former council, the shadow of humanity's refusal lingered. No mercy. No compromise. No excuses. Just the quiet certainty that some things, once unleashed, could never be contained. The galaxy had been warned. And it would never forget.